Hello, this is Giovanni Leonor, and this is our fourth video in the series on how to improve your relationships and understanding why it is that some relationships fall apart. Today's topic is an interesting one, and the disclaimer I want to give you before we begin is that if you have any young children, please watch this video first and then use good judgment if you decide to let them watch. Today's topic is nagging and bitching. Now, in the last 20 years, as I run these domestic violence groups, that topic seems to get the attention of group participants as they're sitting on their edge, ready to share with me when they have been the victim of nagging and bitching. But little do they know that what I'm going to do, and I'm doing this with you today, is we're going to dissect these two terms to better understand how they grow and develop and what you can do to really remove them out of your relationship. So I'm going to begin with a quick story and see if you can follow the progression in these two terms. So the story I'm going to share with you is a true story that I've been guilty of in my relationship of 27 years with my amazing wife. And it begins with, in 2014, my wife had requested me to put together the business paperwork so we could submit to our accountant to do our tax return. She gave me 2 months' time. She said, in 2 months, we're getting together with the accountant. Please make sure you have all the information together to give the accountant for the business. I said, Kim, no problem. I'll get it done. About 2 weeks later, she reminded me of the importance of having this information ready for the accountant. I said, Kimberly, got plenty of time. I'll get it done. No problem. About 2 weeks after that, she reminded me again, but this time she inquired, do you have them done? And I said, no, I don't have them done, but I'll get them done, no problem. She seemed a bit disturbed, but she left it at that. About a week or so after that, she once again inquired, but this time her inquiry had a kind of an aggressive, frustrating twist to it. I would call that nagging. I once again responded the same way, Kim, no problem, we'll get it done, I'll have it ready, no problem. If you notice, there's a pattern here of me saying, no problem, I'll get it done. Which really means, please, just stop bothering me. I'll get to it. She knows this well. So, and about a week or so later, she says, Giovanni, do you or do you not have those documents ready? I said, Kimberly, no, but we got, what, a couple weeks? I got plenty of time. I'll get it done. About a week before the appointment with her accountant, she comes to me, she says, you know how many times I've asked you to get these documents ready? Do you know how much time you've had? Do you have them ready? And I said, you know, Kimberly, I've been busy. I started giving her a verbal resume of my responsibilities and things that are out of my control and things that have been going on in my professional and personal life that have prohibited me from getting this done earlier. She did not seem pleased or satisfied and continued with the intensity which I would consider bitching about these documents. A day or so before the appointment with the accountant, she once again inquired, again in the very intense, aggressive, accusatory manner. In fact, I'm almost willing to say disrespectful manner, which we men would consider bitching. Well, I will tell you how this story ends. I didn't have the documents ready upon her last request. And in fact, I didn't have them ready in time for an appointment with her accountant. To say the least, my wife was very disappointed. And candidly, she was angry, and rightfully so. See, what I had done was I had overpromised, underdelivered. You know, the first time I was introduced to this term, overpromise, underdeliver, was from my brother, Luis, who is in sales, well, back then was in sales, and now is in administration. And he once told me that a mentor of his said to him, you want to be successful in business, underpromise, overdeliver. Well, I've applied that into my personal life. In fact, I've actually integrated into the curriculum of our Batters Intervention program, and I have seen how overpromising and underdelivering has created a consistent pattern of distrust, disrespect, and unhealthy dynamic between my wife and I. Now, of course, 27 years later, I've made a lot of changes and this is no longer the case. But I don't know if you saw the progression. It began with a request. It moved on to a nag and eventually into bitching. Now, if you work that backwards, you realize that when the request was made, if I followed through with the request, it would have never gotten to a nagging phase. If I had followed through the nag or the request through nagging, it would have never followed to a bitching phase. So, am I blaming her or am I blaming me for the fact that it got to that point? Well, candidly speaking, I overpromised, underdelivered. In fact, one time I entered a bathroom at a restaurant, a small little Papa Mama joint in a city I was visiting, and there was a sign and it said, if your man says he will get it done, there's no need to remind him every 6 months. Now, I know that's a bit comical, but in every joke there's a level of truth, which is perhaps why it's comical. But the truth of the matter is that when a man overpromises, or a woman overpromises and underdelivers, it creates the foundation for disrespect. And that disrespect will chip away at the values, the core, the integrity of the relationship. So just to bring it to a close, it's very simple. Bitching happens because the person who is being requested or asked to do something completely ignores the request. Then ignores the nagging. In fact, makes empty promises to the point of overpromising, underdelivering. And then that nagging turns into bitching. And once it turns into bitching, really, the outcome of that is never good. Because even if, in this case, the man, myself, follows through with the initial request, by the time it's gotten to bitching, in this case, my wife, would have not been happy, even though I did provide the documents. The fact that I dragged it out, the fact that I kept ignoring her request, the fact that I kept making up excuses, automatically began to damage the relationship. Even though, had I had their paperwork done on time, the fact that it entered into a bitching phase, it would have already started damaging the relationship. Now, luckily enough, we're still married. And I've had plenty of time and still have plenty of time to keep making improvements and changes in my own self as I address and work in the dynamic of my marriage. Thank God my wife is patient enough to allow me the time to grow and make changes. And by no means am I blaming men for the breakdown of a relationship. But in this topic, it's very important to understand, and I'll recap it, that when your significant other, in this case my wife, made a reasonable request, it wasn't for her, it was for the better good of the family. It was about our tax return. When I ignored that request eventually turned into nagging. And from nagging, it turned into bitching. And all because I decided to overpromise, underdeliver. That is today's topic for today. I hope you found it useful. Listen, apply this in any relationship. You will see a drastic improvement in any relationship, but especially in your intimate relationship. Please make comments. If you like, click like. If you want to subscribe, please do so. Till then, I will see you again on our next video. Goodbye.